Something felt wrong the moment the questioning began. It wasn't the usual political theater. This was different. It was the kind of tension you only feel when someone in power is being asked a question they cannot afford to answer honestly. And that's exactly why the room went silent when a single, simple question dropped like a hammer. Who would be your client? Because everyone watching knew this wasn't really about a nominee. It wasn't even about a hearing. This was a test about loyalty, whether the nation's top legal seat would belong to the Constitution.
Senator Coons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Attorney General Bondi, and to your family and supporters. Thank you for your service, and I look forward to our conversation today. I have a simple three-factor test when considering the executive branch nominees before us. Do you have the qualifications and experience to do the job, policy views to do the job in the best interest of the American people, and the character and integrity to conduct your job, and yours in particular, with the independence that the role requires? You demonstrably have the relevant experience. I understand we will not see eye to eye on some or even many policies, but we had a constructive conversation last week about our shared interest in fighting the opioid epidemic, countering human trafficking, criminal justice reform, and supporting law enforcement. But I need to know that you share a core value, ensuring the Department of Justice remains free from partisan or political influence, in particular by the White House. So I look forward to our discussion about that today. As Attorney General, if confirmed, who would be your client?
My oath would be to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. The people of America would be my client. Now, it is also my job to advise the president. My client are the people of America.
A simple question of constitutional interpretation. Is President-elect Trump eligible to run for another term as president in 2028?
No, Senator, not unless they change the Constitution.
Thank you. One of the concerns I've raised with you is safeguarding the Department of Justice's independence in the face of some promises on the campaign trail by then-candidate Trump that he would use the department to target his political adversaries, or that he might interfere with prosecution. What would you do if your career DOJ prosecutors came to you with a case to prosecute, grounded in the facts and law, but the White House directs you to drop the case?
Senator, if I thought that would happen, I would not be sitting here today. That will not happen, will not happen. Every case will be prosecuted based on the facts and the law that is applied in good faith, period. Politics have got to be taken out of the system. This department has been weaponized for years and years and years, and it has to stop.
Thank you. Let me, if I might, Madam Attorney General, refer you back to Senator Durbin's opening comments about previous attorneys general, our former colleague, Jeff Sessions, Bill Barr. I don't think it's credible to say that it may never happen that the president-elect would direct an unethical or illegal act. I think both of those attorneys general found themselves crosswise with the then president by doing things he didn't welcome or approve of. Just answer the question for me, if you would. I know you may not expect it. I know you wouldn't have accepted this nomination if you thought it possible. But let's imagine that once again, President-elect Trump issues a directive or order to you or to the FBI director that is outside the boundaries of ethics or law. What will you do?
Senator, I will never speak on a hypothetical, especially one saying that the president would do something illegal. What I can tell you is my duty, if confirmed as the Attorney General, will be to the Constitution and the United States of America. And the most important oath, part of that oath that I will take, are the last four words, so help me God.
Given the importance of that oath, I hope you can understand the importance of repeated questions from some of us about the importance of having independence in the Department of Justice. It has a long tradition of independent special prosecutors, especially to handle high-profile or often political cases. If you got credible evidence of a criminal violation by a White House official, including even the president, would you bring in a special prosecutor?
Senator, that's a hypothetical. I can tell you what I do know is special prosecutors have been abused in the past on both sides. We have seen that for many, many years. They have cost the taxpayers countless dollars, countless. And I will look at each situation on a case-by-case basis and consult the appropriate career ethics officials within the department to make that decision.
Attorney General, do you think special counsels need to be confirmed by the Senate?
I will follow the law and I will consult with the appropriate ethics officials regarding the law. Right now, they do not need to be Senate confirmed, of course.
But you did sign an 11th Circuit brief arguing that they should be.
I will follow the law, Senator. That's why I said that.
Understood, but I was just getting to the clarity about the difference between a
Absolutely.
position you've advocated and what the current law is. Thank you for that. Look, bluntly, to me, refusing to answer a hypothetical when there is clear and concrete previous history raises some concerns for me. I think Chris Wray has done an outstanding job as FBI director at avoiding political pressure. And although he was chosen by President Trump, he's being driven out so that he can be replaced. My perception, I've not yet met with Mr. Patel, by a loyalist who has publicly said he will do what the president asks him. Given that Attorney General Barr was asked to go find evidence of election interference and improprieties, went and looked for the evidence and said, I can't find any, and was then dismissed, I'm just going to ask you one last time. Can you clarify for me that in following ethics and the law, you'd be willing to resign if ordered to do something improper?
Senator, I wouldn't work at a law firm. I wouldn't be a prosecutor. I wouldn't be attorney general. If anyone asked me to do something improper and I felt I had to carry that out, of course I would not do that. That's one of the main things you learn when you're a young prosecutor is to do the right thing. And I believe that has continued with me throughout my very long career.
As we discussed, protecting American invention and innovation, American intellectual property, is a real concern of mine and of several others on this committee. I look forward to talking with you about that pressing concern. But the most important question I had for you today is whether you will be willing and able to stand up to politicization and interference in the Department of Justice. And I look forward to further clarification from you about the specifics of that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator.
Senator Cruz would be next, but he's not here, so I call on Senator Kennedy.
Or to someone else entirely. And the way she hesitated, just for a moment, told the audience more than her prepared statement ever could. She said her loyalty would be to the people, to the law, to the oath she'd soon swear. But for many listening, that answer didn't settle the fear. It only sharpened it. Because we've seen nominees promise independence before, only to act like shields for powerful interests the moment the pressure hits. And as the first questions rolled in, you could feel the entire room trying to figure out whether this would be another one of those moments. Another official who talks about neutrality while helping someone behind the scenes. What made everything more intense was what came next. The senator didn't bother with warm-ups or softball questions. He went straight for the pressure point, the one that would expose everything. He didn't ask about policy. He didn't ask about experience. He asked about integrity under fire, and whether she actually had it. He used a test. 3 factors that every nominee should meet: the skills for the job, the policies to serve the public, and the character to stay independent. And when he got to that last part, everyone leaned forward a little more, because that's where nominees either shine or unravel. She answered confidently, almost defiantly. She said the department has been weaponized for years and insisted she would never let political influence steer her decisions. But here's where things got interesting, because while she spoke about independence, the senator brought up something she did not expect. He asked whether someone could legally run again in the future, an eligibility question many legal experts have debated, but one she clearly didn't want to be tied to publicly. She gave a short answer: not unless the Constitution changes. But the real story wasn't the answer. It was the way that question opened the door to everything else that followed. Because once the topic shifted to constitutional boundaries, it forced another, far heavier issue onto the table. What would she do if someone in power tried to bend those boundaries? This was the moment the hearing changed. No more polite exchanges. No more rehearsed talking points. Now the senators were demanding clarity on something that truly matters. If career prosecutors brought her a case supported by facts and law, but someone high up demanded she drop it, what would she do? Her response was quick, almost too quick. That will not happen, she said. Every case will be based on facts and the law. Politics must be taken out of the system. And yet, the entire room could sense the flaw in that answer. Saying it will not happen is not the same as saying, if it happens, here's what I'll do. Everyone knew that. The senators knew it. The viewers knew it. And the pause after her statement, just long enough to be noticeable, made the uncertainty even louder. Then came a reminder from history. Previous attorneys general, long before her, had been pressured, pushed, or punished for refusing to follow unethical orders. Two of them even found themselves at odds with the presidency for refusing to cross legal lines. Their careers proved what she was trying to deny. Political pressure does happen, and pretending it doesn't only raises more suspicion. But instead of addressing that reality, she dodged. She said she wouldn't answer hypotheticals. She said her duty would be to the Constitution. And while those words sound noble, they also leave a dangerous amount of wiggle room, enough to make anyone who cares about justice feel uneasy. And that uneasiness only grew when the conversation pivoted towards special prosecutors. The senator asked whether she'd appoint one if credible evidence emerged against someone in high office. Again, she refused to answer directly. Again, she said it was hypothetical. But this wasn't a random, abstract scenario. It has happened before, many times. Saying she couldn't address the possibility made the audience wonder what she didn't want to say out loud. Then another twist. She had once argued in court that special prosecutors should require Senate confirmation. Now, suddenly, she avoided that stance entirely. She insisted she'd follow the law, even though she had previously advocated for changing it. It wasn't illegal, but it was convenient. Too convenient. And when pressed again, this time with more force, she still wouldn't say whether she would step aside if ordered to act unlawfully. She wouldn't say she'd resign. She wouldn't say no. She only repeated general statements about doing the right thing. To anyone watching closely, this was the red flag waving in the center of the room. Because here's the truth everyone already knows. It's easy to say you'll defend the law when no one is pressuring you. That it's easy to claim independence before the job begins. The real question, the one she avoided 3 separate times, is this: what happens when independence comes with consequences? And the senators didn't let that question go. They reminded her that professional ethics aren't hypothetical. They reminded her that resisting unlawful orders usually leads to removal, retaliation, or public attacks. They reminded her that previous officials who upheld the law were fired for it. Still, she never gave a clear answer. And that's when the hearing shifted again, this time to something bigger than any one nominee. The conversation widened, pulling in concerns about protecting inventions, intellectual property, national security cases, corporate espionage, and foreign interference. It forced the audience to imagine what could happen if the justice system lost its independence in any of those areas. What happens when legal power becomes a bargaining chip? What happens when investigations depend on loyalty, not evidence? What happens when prosecutors are pressured to look away or look closer based on political convenience? History shows exactly what happens. Trust crumbles. Stability collapses. And once that damage is done, rebuilding it is almost impossible. The senator asked one more time, plain, direct, sharp, whether she would resign if ordered to break the law. And once again, she avoided the word resign. She explained why she would never put herself in a position where she had to do something improper, but that wasn't the question. Everyone caught it. Everyone noticed. Because the question wasn't whether she wanted to do something wrong. It was about whether she would refuse, publicly, firmly, unmistakably. If the order came from above, and she never answered that. The rest of the hearing touched on technical issues, ongoing concerns, and national priorities. But by then, the main story had already unfolded. The senators wanted to know whether she would protect the legal system or protect someone in power. They wanted to know if she would stand firm or stay silent. And based on her answers, or lack of answers, the doubts only grew stronger. What made this moment so gripping wasn't political drama. It was the realization that the entire hearing was a window into a bigger fight, a clash over what the justice system is supposed to be: a tool for fairness or a weapon for whoever holds power. Every viewer watching had to make their own judgment. Some believed her promises. Others saw only vague answers and evasions. But no one left feeling neutral, because at the end of the day, the question she never fully answered is the only one that truly matters. When the pressure hits, who will she really serve? And that's why this hearing was more than just another political event. It was a preview of the future, one that could define the integrity of the entire legal system. That if you've been watching closely and you want to dive deeper into moments like this, the ones that reveal what's really happening behind the scenes, make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe for more breakdowns, more investigations, and more untold stories that keep you one step ahead of the headlines. The next video goes even deeper, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.